What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 145, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're talking about Square Enix renewing their vows with Xbox. We also have news of a rumored Oblivion remake. What's going on? New Game Pass games, and unfortunately, more layoffs to talk about. But before we get to all that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How you doing?
What's up, man? I'm doing very well. Happy to be here once again, breaking down some Xbox news. But we have a lot of different things to break down. But yeah, excited for another round.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some. I've been away on vacation the last week or so, as I told you when we left. So it was a struggle to keep up with everything that's going on. So when I sat down to actually write the show for this week, I'm like, what happened? Because I've just been staring at sand and the ocean for a week now.
Yeah, that's always the thing about going on vacation. When you're, I would consider us reporters to some capacity. Like anybody who's a podcaster is a reporter. So whenever you check out to go to like the mountains or the beach or wherever you go for vacation, there's always this sense of FOMO where it's like, oh, like you mentioned, I think on last week's show of like what's going to happen as soon as I log off and go do my vacation. So
Hmm.
glad to see you pieced everything together, and I don't think you missed too many big highlights here.
You know what I did miss, and we're not going to talk about it, but you know what I did miss was the announcement of Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2.
You did. I think you got on Discord to talk about that one a little bit. You were
I
like,
had
called it,
to.
heard it.
I
Yeah.
had to. Because I heard about that game like a month and a half ago, and I was like, "There's no way this is real." And then I kept getting more pieces of information. I'm like, this game is real. And then I thought it would be announced a few weeks ago. It wasn't, and I started to doubt myself. And then when it finally got announced, I was like, yes, I knew it. I knew it was coming.
Yes, congratulations on that. I thought it was a kind of a weird announcement. Like you said, I don't know if we're going to talk about it on today's show, but that really felt like one of those like Nick Cage and Dead by Daylight Gamescom announcements, where like all of a sudden Jeff Keighley's like, and now from our partners at Nickelodeon. But no, I guess this was just a random drop.
I thought it was going to be one of those games. I was like, oh, they're saving it. But
Yeah.
no, we got it. Angry Beavers look to be in it, which I'm pumped about. Man, I'm a big Smash platform fighter guy, so you'll probably hear me talk about this game when it comes
Nice.
out. And apparently October, because every game is releasing in October.
Yeah, I'm sure that won't be cannibalized by anything that's more significant. Definitely not. No.
No. It comes. Rumored release date is 4 days after Spider-Man
Oh,
and a week after Alan Wake. And it's
yeah.
fine.
So they've spaced it out really well, is what I'm hearing.
It can hang. It can hang out with the big boys. All
Yeah,
right.
totally. No problems.
What up, Captain Logan in the chat says, can't believe you all made that thumbnail. Yo, Amon, shout out to the thumbnail because I made one. Wasn't nearly as good as the thumbnail for this episode that he made. I love this. Might be my favorite thumbnail. Just
Pretty good.
saying. What up, Megatron? Thanks for showing up. What's up, everyone? Just randomly found your channel, subscribe. Oh, thank you so much. We
Very
appreciate it.
nice.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
I guess I should introduce the show. This is Project XTalk. We are an Xbox podcast. We're live every Thursday right here on YouTube. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review, whether that's Apple, Spotify. We did hit 50 reviews on
Hey.
Spotify. So we're almost at 50 on Apple too, which doing some math, that'd be 100 total. So if you guys can get us over there, and if you do drop us a review, make sure to tweet it at me or join the Discord and show it to me. It'll enter you to win that premium digital deluxe edition of Starfield, get you that 5-day early access. So you're going to want that. And we're going to be drawing the winner in a couple of weeks. So make sure the entries are in. If you want to support us further, get early access to Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Bucky Blue, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai and Knight, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, and Alpaca Tom. We appreciate each and every one of you making this show run. But Sam, we got the housekeeping out of the way. Let's start like we do each and every week, going around the room and asking one question. That question is, what have you been playing, my friend?
Dude, it's been a great week for me. So I talked a couple of weeks ago, didn't have a lot of time for games throughout the first half of July. Then we got back, we started digging back into it. And I saw Luke from XEP checking out the Antstream Arcade. He's getting back into like the brawlers, the beat 'em ups, that kind of thing. And so with the hype around Mutant Mayhem, I was like, we got to go back and check out Shredder's Revenge because whenever
Mm.
that dropped on Game Pass last year, I just wasn't in the mood. It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't hitting with where I was at that point in time. And so I re-downloaded it. I think I actually still had it downloaded. Booted it up, and I just grinded right through it. So we finished all, I think, 16 levels that are in there. Unlocked Casey Jones. So I'm starting to go back through and kind of toy around with a little bit of the collectibles and things like that. But it's a really manageable, fun game with a little bit of
Hmm.
challenge in the bosses, like nothing crazy. But it was a really good time. So I wrapped that one up, and then I'll probably keep on with that. But outside of that, Halo Infinite going back. We have the Tenrai 2 event that I think wrapped up this week. Some cool stuff in there as well coming out this week. Checked out Toem a bit. We talked
Okay.
about this one on last
Yeah.
week's
Yeah. Yeah.
show. Yeah, not my thing. Did not.
Mm.
Yeah, I got into like the first world where you go into it and you
Hmm.
start taking pictures and like get the prompts and things. And I saw the gameplay loop and I'm like, nah, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 to 4 hours, and I think I'm
Hmm.
good right now. But I might go back to it. And then also dabbling still a little bit in Need for Speed Unbound. I'm just doing a race here and there, not grinding it like I was. But I think coming off of the Crew Motor Fest, I had a little void of racing that I needed to fill. So Unbound is trying to fill that.
Yeah, Tome is a very specific type of game. You're either into those style games or you're not. For me, it was one of those. I wanted a chill, relaxing game at the moment, and I'm not usually one for what they call cozy games, right? I'd say
Yeah.
Tome is a cozy game, but it kind of fit where I was at that moment in time, and it is not very long, like you're saying, 3 to 4 hours. But
Yeah.
that gameplay loop really needs to get you where if you're if you're not okay with taking pictures and just turning them in, getting the stamps, then you're going to be in for a boring ride.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I see the fun in it. I get it. Like, I know why people enjoy it, and I understand. And it's just like right now, I feel like I need something with a little bit more octane to it, and so I might come back with that one on like a Sunday morning chill coffee kind of vibe. But was not what I was into this week.
it's awesome to hear you're playing Shredder's Revenge, though. I have a funny story with that game. I played it as soon as it dropped on Game Pass. Me, my brother, and one of our friends. We played the entire campaign in one sitting, and then we never played it again.
Yeah, it's definitely that kind of game too. I think that I played it totally solo. I've not played co-op with anybody.
Mm,
And so that probably like lengthened my time that I've spent with it because I mean, even me doing solo, you're looking at like 5 to 6 minutes per level. So this
hmm.
is not a long game.
Yeah. I think it took me almost 2 hours to. I think it was about 2 hours to beat it when you're playing co-op. But
Yeah.
I've been playing quite a bit of games as well. I came back from my vacation and we got into Sonic Frontiers, which I
Mhm.
started before vacation. I wrapped that up actually, so I've rolled credits on Sonic Frontiers. Wasn't quite as long as I expected. It only took me. I finished it Tuesday, but I played quite a bit when I got back Monday, and this game I have quite a mixed feelings on. I would say almost a love hate relationship with it because it's one of those games where I like so much of the open world, and I'm not big on open world games, but I like so much of what they have going on in the environments and the actual exploration, and the story is pretty decent for a Sonic game. But then you have these boss fights that drive me up a wall, man. I almost uninstalled this game multiple times because the boss fights require you to parry in order to attack them. Like you can't just
Yeah.
go up and start attacking them. And I put this out on Twitter and I put this in the Discord. I hate parrying. I think parrying is the worst mechanic in video games. I stand by that, especially when you require parrying to do a boss fight. Not a fan. Not
Yeah.
cannot say that was enjoyable.
I feel like going at Sonic is not a parrying game. I think is what my takeaway is because like I think I might have commented in the Discord, but Wolong is centered on the idea of parrying.
Hmm.
Like so many of the bosses, even you can hack and slash your way through some of the earlier ones, but the later ones you need to be able to parry to be able to go on and proceed through the game. And so with Sonic, does it do the thing where it'll show you how the boss works? Like you'll have the timing, and then every now and then a hit is off, like the boss will hold back a punch for a minute and try to trick you, or is it pretty straightforward.
So it depends on there were a few bosses where you would get maybe half the health down after like getting in the rhythm. Like, okay, I got I'm finally getting the timing after being frustrated, and then maybe now you have to parry 2 attacks in a row, so you have to do the timing.
Yep.
Or the one that really got me was one where it's a giant snake that just flies through the sky, and he shoots missiles at you the whole time, and you have to parry one of the 50 missiles he shoots at you. But he's also shooting like lasers at the same time, and I could not tell what was happening on my screen because like I'm flying at the speed of sound, golden Sonic. It was terrible. The particle effects, I was like, I can't get this. It's frustrating. But I got through all of it. And you want to know something funny? Final boss did not require you to parry. I was like, you just trained me for 4 bosses that I have to parry everything, and now you're just letting me beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, I think they ran out of development money on that one, and they were like, ship it, clip it, and ship it. Let's do it.
Yeah, very frustrating. But I'm glad I played it. It was well worth the $30. Other than that, I went on a little shopping spree. Bought myself a little gift on Tuesday. All right,
Ooh.
got myself the nice ROG
Whoa!
Ally.
That
All
thing is
right,
clean. That looks
yeah, it's
nice.
gorgeous. It's a gorgeous hand. I love that it's white. I'm really enjoying it. I have been putting. It's basically all I've been playing since I got it on Tuesday. I went with this over the Steam Deck just because I wanted all of the launchers in one place. And I know you can get that on the Steam Deck, but I don't like doing back end stuff on PCs. So I have had a great experience with it. This is maybe the most comfortable handheld I've had. I don't like the Switch ergonomically. I think this is really great. And I've just been testing out some games, Steam games, some Epic Game Store games, some Xbox games, loving the Play Anywhere feature, which isn't really something I've ever taken advantage of. Funny enough, the Xbox game, I was like, what's a free Xbox game that I can download? Like looking for a new one. I downloaded Phantom Dust, the throwback.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that's old.
That's an OG Xbox game, I believe.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
Yes.
how was that?
I know. I think Miles Dampier on Twitter really likes this game. I don't know if he's trolling, but this game's hot trash, and I don't know if it's just aged really poorly. But I did not enjoy my time with that. So I was like, how long to beat is this? Like I looked up how long to beat is this game because like maybe if it's a few hours, maybe I'll just stick with it. It's 19 hours long for the main story, and I'm like, nope. I'm out. I cannot play this for 19 hours.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This is wait, so not to dig into this so Phantom Dust, free to play.
Yeah.
It's a re-release of the original Xbox Classic. I guess I thought re-release in my mind implied that it had been improved in any kind of way. This looks old as dirt. Does it play like it looks?
Yes, it very much plays like it looks, like janky and not feeling good. I think they upped the resolution with all they really did for the re-release, but yeah, it's not a great thing. But what I will say is great is Trails in the Sky, The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. This is I've been playing through the Trails series basically since last year, and even though this is the first one chronologically, I've never played it, and I've had it on PC for over a year, and I had played a total of 1 hour. I am now 7 hours into it. So the ROG Ally is getting me to play this game that has been sitting there staring me in the face. And I'm really enjoying it. Having a good time. It's kind of a slow build up right now, as most of the first Trails games are, but it runs beautifully on the Ally, man. This thing is very impressive for a handheld.
Nice. All right, so have you run into any quirks with like the controls or having to tweak settings or anything like that? I know that I've heard a couple of people say in comparison to the Steam Deck, since it does run a full version of Windows versus like a custom UI, are there any issues you've had so far?
I haven't had any issues in terms of the UI or setup. I think they have this little command center button, which you can basically just hit, and that lets you alter things pretty quickly. Like you can change the resolution on the fly. You can set a FPS limiter. You can put it uncapped. You can do the what the FSR or whatever AMD calls it to upscale if you want to play at that low resolution. There's 3 different operating modes, like turbo if you want to max out performance, but then your battery is going to die.
Yeah.
Which I will say that is probably my biggest. It's not a complaint because I'm not taking this on like 8-hour excursions or whatever. I'm playing this like I bring it to work and play on my lunch break, or I'll just play around the house like watching TV or whatever. So I would say the battery life lasts me around 2.5 hours right now, depending on what I'm playing. So
Mm.
not super great. I've heard Steam Deck might get a little more if you're looking for that, but this does put out a little more power, and you can, if you don't mind sacrificing performance, you can put it on the lowest. I think it's like battery saver mode or whatever, and try to save some of that.
Yeah, I think that I'm really interested in the handheld PC space because Lenovo is rumored to be making one as well to
Hmm.
compete with Valve and with Asus. But I think that if I were to get one, I would do what you're doing, where you mentioned that you've had games on PC for a year that you put an hour into. PC gaming for me just isn't convenient. Like it's
Hmm.
not something where if my girlfriend is playing the Xbox, I'll go hang out in the living room and watch TV or be on my phone or whatever. And then when I'm playing, she'll be doing the same thing. Like I don't want I would rather be together than apart. And so then that creates limitations of like, well, I don't want to be a hermit sitting in my PC room for, the rest of the day where I've been working from home all day anyway. So I think a handheld PC like that would be cool to be able to say, oh, sick, Starfield is out, but we can spend time together. She can watch whatever she wants, and then I'll play this on my handheld. Like that's really cool. So looking forward to hearing how like high end games run on it too once you start trying those out.
Yeah. Right now it is very much like I'm playing older releases or kind of indie game pixel art JRPGs. So nothing like too graphically intensive. My plan is to play Starfield on this like back and forth. Like when I'm home, I'll be playing on the Xbox, obviously, but I'm gonna take this to work and get some Starfield time in during my lunch break, during my little breaks there. So I'm looking forward to that. I love that they confirmed it was Play Anywhere. I assumed it would have been, but it's going to be a good time. Sea of Stars, I think we'll probably
Oh
get some
yeah.
time on this as well. I think that's a perfect game for the Ally. So I know my brother, he also picked one up. We went to Best Buy. I called them and I was like, how many ROG Allies you got? And they're like, we have two. And I was like, can you hold them for 2 hours? And they were like, no, not unless you buy them over the phone. I was like, I not doing that. I will take my chances. And then when we got there, they were like trying to almost talk us out of it. They're like, hey,
Hmm.
like we've gotten some returns to these. And I'm like, all right, well, I get it. All right. You're just trying to sell me warranties and protection plans and stuff,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but yeah, I'm really liking the ROG Ally. I know he tried out xCloud on it and he said Celeste played flawlessly, but then he jumped
Wow.
into Mortal Kombat 11 and that was not a good cloud game apparently.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure the limitations there. I haven't tried any of the cloud streaming or any of that stuff, but I'm still messing around with it. So I'll have some more updates as we go through the month here.
Nice. Well, you've got plenty of games to play on it. That's for sure. We got a big packed fall coming up, so you got a new device to
Mhm.
play these things on.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to it. But Sam, let's get out of what we've been playing and jump into the news because we have a ton of news this week. All right. I think the biggest story revolves around Square Enix and Xbox. So, Xbox's relationship with Japanese publishers has been getting better this generation. However, Square Enix has long been viewed as the Japanese publisher that is the hardest nut to crack. While they brought titles like Star Ocean, The Divine Force, and the Diofield Chronicles to Xbox last fall, titles like Valkyrie Elysium and Tactics Ogre didn't launch on the platform despite launching around the same time. Square has only launched one game on Xbox in the entirety of 2023, and that is the upcoming Infinity's Trash, a Dragon Quest adventure. However, is that about to change? On July 28th at the Final Fantasy Fan Fest, it was announced that Final Fantasy 14 would be finally coming to Xbox. Game director Yoshi P was joined by Xbox head Phil Spencer and Square CEO Takashi Kiryu to celebrate. And while on stage, the Square CEO stated the following quote, and one more thing. As CEO of Square Enix, we want to continue to deliver fabulous games to fans across the world. And of course, we want to welcome the Xbox community as well. And starting with today's announcement of Final Fantasy XIV coming in spring 2024, and whenever possible, we are planning to bring our games to Xbox for players around the world to enjoy. We're really looking forward to working closely with Phil and the Xbox team to make this possible. So, Sam, We got some two pieces of news. Final Fantasy 14 finally coming to Xbox, and then seemingly Square Enix's commitment to Xbox. Let's start off with Final Fantasy 14 finally coming over. What are we feeling here?
I mean, it's great for the people that are interested in that and that want to play it. I think that it's cool that they're doing like the full bring your character over if you've already got one, if you've been playing for a while, like it's fully integration with the existing release version. So I think that more people playing more games. I mean, that's at the fundamental of everything Xbox is doing right now. So more power to them. And I hope the people that enjoy this and that are looking for a new MMO are able to dive in and really have a seamless experience. I think that since this is being done so late in the game, they need to treat it with a level of respect and make sure that it's executed properly versus just porting a game over and kind of letting it sit, letting it die. Like they've got to kind of nurture this one and make sure that Xbox players aren't the second tier of the
Mhm.
group of Final Fantasy 14 players. But cool to see it coming for sure.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar, Phil Spencer said back in 2019 that this was a game that they're working to get on the platform, and since it had been so long, a lot of people kind of gave up on the idea that it was going to come. I think even Square and maybe Yoshi P at some point a few years ago said like there was no updates on Final Fantasy coming to Xbox. So it's good to finally see this promise has been kept, and they're bringing it in the spring of 2024. It's going to have all the current expansions, and then I know they announced a new expansion for next summer. So I assume that'll be day and date on Xbox as well to make sure all the players have time to catch up and then enjoy the new content. Full crossplay, I think, is a must for these type of games. You can't release an MMO like this on Xbox where the player base, let's be real, isn't going to be as big as something like the PC or the PlayStation player base. Not just because they've been out longer, but because Xbox doesn't have that Japanese presence, right? Like for those type of games. So they needed that crossplay, and now they have it. All the ducks seem to be in a row, and it's awesome to see Final Fantasy 14 finally come over. I will note that you do need to pay a subscription to play this game, much like World of Warcraft. So I'm not personally in on Final Fantasy 14, despite liking Final Fantasy, but I'm glad. I know that there have been people that have wanted this on the platform.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious to see is a year in, how many people on Xbox have gone in and said, "All right, this is what I want to play. I'm subscribing to Final Fantasy 14." And I think that maybe not that this is a test and learn situation, but it could help shape what they chase with this relationship with Square Enix, where if Final Fantasy 14 is not financially a success like they think it will be on Xbox, then they could say, "Okay, well, we need to think how we do this partnership and instead bring X, Y, and Z rather than focus on Final Fantasy MMO games in the future." Maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I think the biggest news for me out of this Final Fantasy announcement is the quote from the CEO of Square, the second part of the story, really, where he basically commits to bringing future, it sounds like Final Fantasy content, but Square Enix games in general. And this has long been a criticism of much of the online Xbox community, at least. I'm not sure how much of the people that don't keep up with gaming podcasts really know that Square Enix has kind of moved away from the Xbox brand recently, especially in the last, I would say, 2 years, where we got a few games here or there, but there have been big titles that are just skipping the platform altogether. That yes, Final Fantasy 7 and then Final Fantasy 16 were exclusive to PlayStation, but even things like Valkyrie Elysium, which didn't review that well and didn't sell that well, probably could have been helped out by launching onto something like Xbox. Tactics Ogre, which is a remaster of an N64 title. Like, I don't really see why these games wouldn't come to Xbox. So the fact that now they're now saying, we're going to work with Phil, we're going to work with the Xbox team and bring future Square Enix titles to the platform. That's great. I'm super excited for that. I'm waiting to see that it happens though. Like, talk is one thing. Let's actually get these titles on the platform.
Yeah, I think that the quote that they have directly from the new head of Square Enix is "wherever possible" or "whenever possible," and so there's this huge caveat where it's the same thing that I do, where it's like, "Hey, man, you want to hang out on Sunday?" And it's like, "Well, maybe we'll see what I got going on." And in the back of my mind, it's like, "Well, oh, it looks like that couch is calling my name, not hanging out." So it's the
Mhm.
same situation of whenever possible. Well, if Sony cuts them a big check, well, it's not going to be possible to bring that to Xbox. Shoot, looks like that one's out. Or alternatively, You mentioned some games just aren't coming to Xbox. I think there has to be some juice in there to kind of sweeten the deal. And so if Xbox is paying thousands of dollars to bring Tactics Ogre to the Xbox, then that would offset the potential loss of it not selling well on the platform. So they've got to make money some way, and it's got to be coming from Sony or somebody else, or through this long-term partnership. Maybe a contract was signed. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the fruits of this deal actually are. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that I'm tired of seeing the stuff like we got with Octopath Traveler, and that's the biggest example that comes to mind. Where like Octopath Traveler 1 lands on Switch and PC, I think, at its original release.
Mm-hmm.
Then it came to Xbox, but I
Yep.
don't think the original Octopath was on PlayStation.
Nope.
So we got the Game Pass release of Octopath Traveler on Xbox. Then Octopath Traveler 2 gets announced. Lo and behold, nowhere to be found on Xbox. However, this one's on PlayStation now. So it's like everybody loses here, no matter how you cut it. And I would hope that going forward, Xbox is like, hey, as a part of this new agreement, can we clean that up to where you can play one franchise on the like everything at one point? Yeah, that kind of stuff blows my mind.
It's funny you bring up Octopath Traveler because I think that is a glaring example of Square making a choice where Octopath Traveler 1 still is not on PlayStation. They have Octopath 2, but they've never ported the original over. And we don't have the second one despite having the first one. It makes no sense to me, their business decision. Square is such a hard company to understand what they're doing. So this is why I say, like, we need to wait and actually see what this produces. Like, does this mean Final Fantasy VII Remake is finally going to get that Xbox port that people have been waiting for years? Does this mean Final Fantasy 16 is going to come to Xbox at some point in the future? Like, it's going to be a timed exclusive instead of a permanent exclusive? There's a lot of questions up in the air, and whether this means Xbox gave them a deal like you were kind of suggesting there, and I think that's a possibility. We know things like Call of Duty that got revealed during the trial, right? They agreed to give Activision Blizzard an 80-20 split instead of the 70-30 that's standard for most publishers. Could Square Enix now have a deal like that where they're like, we understand your games don't sell nearly as well on our platform versus the competitors. Let's make this a little more incentivizing for you to bring your games over here and try to build up that player base, no, regardless of how small or minority it might be to your overall sales.
Yeah, I think that we'll have to just wait and see how this relationship pans out. But will Final Fantasy VII Remake and Part 2 eventually come to Xbox? I think that is locked down on PlayStation for a
Mm.
very long time, unless I mean, when did the original Final Fantasy VII Remake come out on PlayStation? That was
Ooh.
2015. Am I too far back?
No, that's too far back, I think I want to say 2019, 2020.
Yeah. All right. So it came out in 2020. That's right, because it was in the it was at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm it's jogging my memory now. So it's like we're 3 years into that. I would imagine if Sony's signing these loop deals, maybe that's like a 5-year deal they've extended it to at this point. So we'll have to wait and see with that one. But I think that at the beginning or the end of the Final Fantasy 16 trailer, they were already putting in the fine print of like this is a 12-month exclusive to PlayStation, or it was one of those
And then it
situations.
got extended when they
Yeah.
did the PS5 upgrade version.
So whatever that looks like, it will eventually come to Xbox, I think. But they said the same thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So who knows what's going to happen? I think they're just taking the highest bidder at this point.
Yeah, it'll sort of be interesting. I think Octopath Traveler 2 is probably the first thing on the like get that over here because we have the first one. Kind of keep that IPs that we've already had on Xbox need to come back to the platform. So I know we have Final Fantasy. That's a remains to be seen situation, but Octopath is one. I think the Dragon Quest HD 2D remake would be a good step forward to get that. Dragon Quest 12 day and date, getting that going forward would be good because we had Dragon Quest 11 on Game Pass. So like there is sort of a relationship that was being established before Square kind of cut it off. And hopefully if Xbox is making these monetary concessions, then that's a little more incentivizing for them to bring it over. And that's all I hope for, is that we start seeing these. And I will say, anyone listening, if you are a fan of Square Enix, you're a fan of JRPGs, and I've preached this the entirety of the show, When the games come to Xbox, you have to buy the games on Xbox. You can't just be like, oh, that's cool, and then go buy them somewhere else, or don't buy them at all and be like, I'll wait for Game Pass. These are the titles that like we need to show up, support, and be like, there's an audience here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's something that I've been able to do more of now that I'm an adult with like adult money. I totally understand if you're like 12, 13, 14 and you're trying to find a way to
Hmm.
buy all these games. I mean, look at this 2023 roster. I've got a list of like 20 games coming out over the course of the next 3 months. When I was 15, I had like $70 to choose what I wanted to buy. So like I get it, but yeah, totally.
Hmm.
If you have something coming into the platform that you want to see continue to come to the platform, you've got to vote with your wallet. It works both ways of what you don't want and what you do want. But I would love to see the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters as well. I don't know if we
Yes, I
mentioned
think
those.
that's a good
Yeah.
shout. Though that's a very easy low, I don't want to say low effort, but lower effort than compared to some other ports.
Yeah.
Like you have those games, they're on everything except Xbox. Like
Yeah.
get them on the
I think they're
platform.
on Luna, Amazon Luna, if I remember correctly. Like, listen, man, if you're on Luna and mobile, you've got to bring it. Like, it's not that hard. Come on now. This is not Baldur's Gate 3 where we're struggling to get it to run on a Series S. We can definitely do pixel remasters.
Yeah, Pixel Remasters for sure is a good one, but we'll wait and see what comes from the Square Enix deal. I think this is a good step forward, and looking forward to people being able to play Final Fantasy 14. But let's go to the next story, and I definitely messed up the mark, the little thing here. Audio listeners, one of the main thing I do want to talk about. Oblivion might be getting a remake. So this comes via Chris Scullion at VGC at a recent post on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit by a supposed former employee of Virtuous Studios, the team that's currently working on the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, claims that Virtuous is working on 5 separate projects. The user claims one of the projects, codenamed Alter, is either a remake or a remaster of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. They claim the project will be released at the end of 2024 or early 2025. Sam, do we need a remake or remaster of Oblivion?
Um, I think that's I think Mr. Matty Plays said this on Twitter. I would rather see a remake of Morrowind than Oblivion because Oblivion has backward compatible support and it is up to 4K 60 FPS. You can play it on the Series X and S right now. I don't know if S is 4K 60, but I know X is 4K 60 and like literally popping the disc ready to go backward compatible all the way through and through with that benefit. And I played it whenever the Series X dropped. I put a couple of hours into Oblivion just to test out backward compatibility. And it looks, runs, plays well. A little bit clunky depending on your preference, but what's interesting about this Oblivion remake rumor is that the allegation here is that it's running on 2 engines at the same time, so it feels like the original with the Oblivion engine, but it has the look of Unreal Engine 5. So,
Hmm.
seeing what's possible with Unreal Engine 5, that would be really cool to see what Morrowind looks like, and then potentially, see what the future of Elder Scrolls might be able to pull off, just as a glimpse of like what that might feel like. Um, I don't know that it's needed, but it will definitely sell. It will generate revenue, so like they're gonna do it. But yeah, I don't think we need one, but I think that it's fine if they do one.
It's funny to me that they're like, I think we've exhausted Skyrim. Let's go backwards now and do Oblivion. I think Morrowind would be the more ideal one for a remake because it is older and probably needs the touch ups more. Oblivion, I think, is held in higher regard. I know that's a lot of people's favorite Elder Scrolls, even over Skyrim. So me personally, I am not I'm not really craving this because he said it does play so well in backwards compatibility on current consoles and PCs. So I don't really see a need for this. My bigger concern though is you're claiming it's going to release a little over a year after Starfield, their big new IP. That seems very counterintuitive to me because I feel like people are still going to be making their way through Starfield in a year because it's that big of a game, right? Like these Bethesda RPGs are games people play for years and years. So the fact that you're now being like, yeah, we know we gave you Starfield, but like here's our old game. Have fun with this one too. I don't know where people are getting the amount of time to invest into these big RPGs, And it also confuses me that they would do an Elder Scrolls game when I think we know Elder Scrolls 6 is the next one up after Starfield, right? And then people have been like, well, Fallout isn't slated until 2030. So why, if they're going to remake a remaster game, wouldn't a Fallout game be the more logical choice?
I mean, potentially. If we're just talking like pie in the sky dreams here, can the Oblivion remake and find some team at Obsidian to work on New Vegas remake? Like that's what I would like to see. And also, I think I'm guilty of throwing around the terms remake and remaster as interchangeable. What
They're
this
not.
sounds like
Yeah.
is, yeah, I think this is a remaster. So it's going to be a
Hmm.
reskin of the original game without any kind of modernization of controls or feel. I don't see a lot of value in that compared to a remake that makes it play more like a modern game, like what we would expect, maybe like from what we've seen with something like Avowed from Obsidian. Like we're not seeing that same level with a remaster of Oblivion. But I think it definitely is a little bit confusing. I just wonder how important it's going to be in Bethesda's marketing cycle versus this thing where it's like, oh, sick, Oblivion's back, like a more of a touch point. And also, it reminds me a lot of Infinite Warfare. Whenever they put that Call of Duty out, it was bundled, or the premium edition or whatever was bundled with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare
Hmm.
Remastered.
Yep.
And so it's like you get two Call of Duty games this year. Turns out the new one kind of sucks. So, anyways, you get the remaster and it totally overrides. Like they stepped on each other's marketing a little bit. And I think I could see that happening a little bit here if they're trying to establish the future of Bethesda. And then all of a sudden you get an ad on Twitter/X for Oblivion, and you're like, oh, well, that's okay, I guess. Sure, why not? And then Fallout's in there somewhere, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, this is obviously a rumor, so take it with a touch of salt there, people. Next year looks so packed already, though, right? Because if you're looking at Xbox's first party lineup, we have Hellblade, we have Avowed, like we have games, we have Towerborn, I know it's second party that's coming out. So we have games that are coming in 2024 lineup, all right? Like I don't really see the need for this next year. And then 2025, we have the promise of things like Fable and and possibly what South of Midnight and maybe Clockwork Revolution, depending how far that along is. So we have games that are I don't really feel this is necessary. It doesn't really excite me all that much, especially because as I said, backwards compatibility exists and it plays so well in there. So we'll see if this ever comes out. I think the only exciting part would be like we made this in on like it's in Unreal Engine 5, but it
Yeah.
plays like the old one, as you were saying.
That's what I'm thinking of too, where if you are looking at it from an Elder Scrolls timeline point of view, who knows when we're getting Elder Scrolls 6. So if you're just looking at that franchise chronologically, it kind of makes sense to between the time that 6 is announced and the time that it actually comes out, which could be like 2026, 2026. Who knows when that thing's going to
Well, I
actually
was saying
land.
2028 Xbox Series whatever launch title.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be like a cross-generational title or a next-gen launch title. And so if we're talking about that, then I guess a Oblivion remake makes sense in there, or a remaster makes sense in there. But at that point, do it right. Like actually rebuild the game and kind of like keep the similar feel, but modernize it in specific ways that make it more welcoming as kind of like this intermediary between the old and the new. But I digress. We'll see what happens with it.
And Todd Howard says, no Fallout for you. You're waiting until 2030 at
Best I can do is
least.
more mods and base building. That's all I've got.
Best I can do is Fallout 1 and 2 remastered. Here you go.
Ugh,
Not
I
even
don't want
close.
that. No.
Uh, all right, let's keep it rolling. Story number 3, our Game Pass update. Your first batch of August Game Pass titles has arrived. So available today. You have a short hike, not a short hike for cloud console PC. August 8th, you get Broforce Forever for cloud console PC. August 9th, Limbo for cloud console PC. August 10th, Airborne Kingdom for cloud console PC. And August 15th, Everspace 2 for cloud and Xbox Series X and S. So, Sam, any of those piquing your interest?
Yeah, a couple of them. Everspace 2, very interested in that. I was a big fan of Chorus that came out. I
Yep.
think that was last year. Could have been
I
2021.
think it was 2021.
Yeah, it might have been 2021, but Chorus was fun. It's got that kind of like, I almost wanted to say Star Wars Squadrons, but it's just fun space combat. And so I want more of the arcadey style approach for Everspace 2. So excited to dive into that one. Also, big shout out to single player games without any kind of co op elements pushed on people unnecessarily or like multiplayer stuff like that. Like Everspace 2 is just a single player space shooter. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds really enticing to me. So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
I thought it was.
it's
I
yeah,
thought
I'm
it was
pretty sure
multiplayer.
it's yeah, I think it's all very focused on single player content from what I saw. Now I could be wrong about that, but yeah, single player game. Excited to check that out from a space point of view. A lot of the other ones are returning. I'm pretty sure Limbo has been on Game Pass before,
I think
and
so.
then yeah, I know A Short Hike has because I played it on Game Pass and I never finished it, so I want to go back and check that one out. But you're smiling. Is there a backstory with A Short Hike?
I just that's one of those games where I'm like, you didn't like Tome, but you're gonna go play a short hike.
See, this coloring book is colored in, man.
Oh,
This,
okay,
yeah, okay, all right,
okay.
yeah.
That's
No, I
that's
mean,
what does it.
A Short Hike in Toem, I don't know. Throw a camera in, maybe I'll hate it. Who knows? But yeah, I do want to go back and finish A Short Hike because I'm already like halfway through it. And then Broforce Forever is a game that's marketing is better than the gameplay looks. I think. Like I love the vibe of it, but I just don't know. I'll check it out. We'll see what happens. But it's a cool eclectic lineup, I guess, for the month of August.
That's the best way to describe Broforce Forever. Because when I saw it, I was like, "Yo, this looks sweet." And then you see the gameplay, I was like, "I don't know how sweet this actually looks
Yeah.
anymore."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wish that it looked like Metal Slug, where it's got kind of like a
yes.
hand-drawn look to it. But then I look at Broforce, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is a pixel platformer. I don't, I don't want that."
Yeah, Limbo is not my cup of tea. Airborne Kingdom does nothing for me. I think Everspace 2 is the big one here that looks really cool. Problem is, it's also coming out around. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is
Oh
around
yeah,
there a
yeah,
few
yeah.
days later. I'm probably gonna be playing that one, and then we have Sea of Stars and Starfield coming. So I don't know if I'll dive into any of those right now, but it's an all right lineup. It's I think the second half will be better than the first half, to be honest with you, for the
Yeah.
Game Pass drop. Logan in the chat says sometimes people like white chocolate, sometimes people like dark chocolate. Let them enjoy their chocolate, Kev. No, Logan, it's dark chocolate or GTFO. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, like, hey, listen, chocolate games, two different conversations. For the record, I'm a dark chocolate guy, but
All
also
right, my
I get
man.
the point. I get the point that's there, though. I get the point.
Yeah. I don't know why you're trying to divide us, Logan. All right,
Yeah, Logan, come on. Yeah,
unstuff.
how I got called out on YouTube by Luke and Logan for I think comments that I may or may not have made about sleeping dogs this week. Where yeah, they
Yeah.
called me out publicly for shaming about my lack of affection for sleeping dogs.
I've never played Sleeping Dogs. I honestly don't know what Sleeping Dogs looks like. Like if you put a screenshot and was like name this game, I could not name Sleeping Dogs.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um
it's Asian GTA is the best way to describe it, but it's a little bit more linear, I guess, is the best way to kind of put it into words. But it's also the one that Wario64 calls Sleepy Dogs every time it's on sale, and he's got an edited box art version that takes out the ing and puts in a y. I'm always a big fan of that. It's a nice touch.
yeah, just looking at the artwork here, it doesn't look like my type of game, to be honest.
It is
This
backwards compatible though, so if you do have the hankering, there's
mm,
your game.
probably won't, but good to know. Good
Yes.
to know. All right, let's keep it rolling. Story number 4, a little bit of a sad one here for me. Striking Distance has had some layoffs. So this comes from Taylor Lyles over IGN. Striking Distance Studios, the studio behind the Callisto Protocol, has laid off 32 employees. The studio and their publisher Krafton stated the following, quote, Striking Distance Studios and Krafton have implemented strategic changes that realign the studio's priorities to better position its current and future projects for success. Unfortunately, these changes have impacted 32 employees. Honoring the invaluable contributions of each departing team member with material support in the form of outplacement services and meaningful severance packages is our top priority during this difficult moment. The Callisto Protocol was billed as a spiritual successor to Dead Space, being led by the creator Glenn Schofield, but had mixed reviews upon launch, and reports suggest it did not sell well enough to commercially meet its $160 million budget. Sam, sad news here for the Callisto Protocol studio. How are we feeling?
I mean, it's a bummer because I think that there is a lot of good in the Callisto Protocol, and I think that this studio was a victim of, and I don't want to blame Glenn Schofield directly, but they set the expectation too high for what is effectively a debut game. And they were kind of billing themselves as the second coming of Dead Space. And to be able to say that kind of thing, you better be able to deliver on it. Like you can't just come out with something that feels a little bit like Dead Space. They're trying to do their own thing, but it's kind of like short. It's not really hitting with people. It's got some glitches whenever it did drop, and it had some like technical issues with I think ray tracing was a problem and things like that for a lot of people. But it just sucks all around because there's a ton of potential here. And as somebody who is planning on going back and playing that campaign DLC that dropped in June here in a couple of weeks, might actually be next on the list. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, just a bummer to see that we'll probably see a scaled back future, I guess, project for them, or a reallocation of resources. I mean, it seems like this is a good chunk of their staff, and how will that impact what they have coming, I think, is my next question.
Yeah, I love the way they phrase it as a strategic implementation. Like they're clearly PR coding it to try to make it seem like, oh, uh, we got to do this for the future of our projects, as if 32 people losing their jobs isn't like a significant blow to them and the studio. Um, I'm a big defender of the Callisto Protocol. I played it recently, and I think I've talked about it in recent months, where I thought the game was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it more than the Dead Space remake, which was my first time ever playing Dead Space, and I know this is heresy, and I'm gonna get kicked off the internet for this, but I enjoyed it more than the Dead Space remake. I had a lot of fun with Callisto Protocol. I would have loved to see them get a second try at like a sequel to refine some things. I don't know if that's going to happen now, just with these layoffs. It seems like they're probably going to be scaled back. I'm not sure if they're going to be given as much leeway, certainly not going to be given as much budget, which I think, to be honest, $160 million for your first project is a bit ridiculous. I don't know where they got off green lighting that much money. They were really banking on, I think, marketing as like, I'm Glenn Schofield. I made Dead Space. This is like Dead Space to carry them. And it didn't once the reviews came out, which I think really, really hurt them.
Yeah, and just to kind of build off of that, this is a rant that I think I've gone on this show before, but I'm getting very tired of these studios that come out of the woodwork, and it's like, we're former Halo, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Turek devs, and we're starting up a studio. And then we've got Glenn Schofield coming out of the woodwork saying, like, I'm starting up Striking Distance. We're going to recreate the beauty of Dead Space and stuff like that. Like, you worked on these projects, and that's great.
Mhm.
But like I've said before, these were teams that were put together at a specific point in time working on a project with the technology they had, and it's just this beautiful conglomeration of instances that are unique to that moment. And it's really hard to recapture that magic in a bottle because one person can totally change the synergy of an entire team. And so just saying, like, you're pairing together people that have had great projects in the past. How much have they worked on that and had the success in that specific project? Like, how much can be attributed to them? And also, do they work well together? Like, you can have the smartest five people in the world in history in the same room that might hate each other, and they'll get more done or less done than you and I. Like,
Mhm.
you can't bank on stuff like that. So I think this could be an example of that on display for all to see.
That's a great point. I know another one of those studios, Deviation, right? That's what was making a game for PlayStation, and we know they just had recent layoffs. And the rumor was like when they were doing their live service, like check-in at these studios, like we know Haven and Bungie kind of went around and was like, you're not up to scratch for Naughty Dog's live service game. And a lot of people were speculating like maybe they did that for Deviation because Deviation started laying off people, and now it's rumored that their game that they were making for PlayStation, which was a live service game, after they're like, we're former Call of Duty devs, like that might be canceled now, or it's somewhere in limbo. So it really is like, just because you worked on those games doesn't mean that the next thing you work on is going to be like amazing. It's hopeful. Like we know people from Playground Games, like I think they formed Lighthouse Studios recently over there, and it sounds like they're going to make an open world driving game similar to Forza Horizon. Probably will it be as good as Forza Horizon though? Like that remains to be seen. Like you still need to earn the place in the industry, and it kind of feels like Callisto for a lot of people was didn't earn that, certainly for the majority of people, even though I think it was great. But it has had negative effects on them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that another analogy is like whenever you have like I think about Journey, an international successful band, not the game, international successful band. And then like they broke up and Steve Perry went off to do his own thing as a solo artist. Any kind of big band breaking off and then they all go do their own thing. They could be international successes even after the band, but at the same time, they could be, oh, look, it's that guy from Journey. And so it's the
Hmm.
same thing with any of these devs that are breaking off to do their own thing. It's not that they can't be a success, it's that we shouldn't expect them to be out of the gate, and they shouldn't expect themselves to be either. I think that's my takeaway.
I want it known, all right? Because first of all, I thought you were talking about the Journey indie game that
I saw
Austin
that,
Winter
yeah.
remade. I was like, where's he going with this? But I want it known that if you're a band and the lead singer leaves, you need to rename your band, okay? The lead singer, most important member of the band. I'm just saying, like, that is what gives the band their most important sound.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Except that for Journey's case, they got someone that sounds basically the
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
the whole
So
thing.
the two that have done it really well, not to go down on this rabbit hole, like Journey did it really well. I've seen the dude they have as a front now, and he's awesome. Boston also hired a dude that was working at Home Depot that sang Boston karaoke on the weekend. He is now their lead singer, which is sick. And I wish that I had that kind of luck to be able to have a set of pipes that matches like AC/DC or something.
Mhm.
Also, my music taste is showing on tonight's show, so enjoy that.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Yes, Captain Logan, the guy that sings for Journey now is amazing.
He is very good.
I don't
Yes.
know how they found the dude that could sing just like, but
Yeah,
they
it's
did it.
very
They did it.
impressive.
Yeah. So good luck to striking distance. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But let's get into listener questions to round out the episode, Sam. We got a few here coming from Alpaca Tom, who's in the chat. Shout out Tom. He says, with Forza being showcased at Gamescom, let's get some car questions. For starter cars, do you guys go tuner, muscle, or exotics? What is your favorite car?
I mean, I think it depends on the game. Like with Forza Horizon 5, I'm the kind of guy that if there is an objective on the other side of the map, I'm just going to beeline to it and I'm going to shoot myself over that volcano. I'm not going to go around all the little roads and stuff the first time through. So like I like to start off with an SUV, something that can kind of get some speed going, hit a jump, land pretty well, that kind of thing. But in a game like Need for Speed or the Crew Motorfest that I was playing a couple of weeks ago, I like the street cars that you can kind of fine tune, that handle really well and can hit corners really sharp and stuff like that. So depends on the situation, but those are my two kind of main picks.
I know nothing about cars. This is where I'm at. I pick sedans. And in Forza Horizon 5, I would download the ones that had anime skins on them because I was like, wow, these are cool. I think I was driving around with like a Jigglypuff on my car last I knew, but
Nice.
that's Jigglypuff is my answer,
Yeah.
Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, Kev said I'm booting up Forza Horizon 5 and I want the Jigglypuff Honda Civic. That's the one that I'm looking for.
You're not far off, to be honest.
I want the Ford Fusion with Hatsune Miku on the back of it, please. Sign me up.
I probably have one with her on it too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I know, Logan. They are crazy hard to make, so that's why I gotta respect them by downloading it and then driving around for everyone to
Yeah.
see my anime waifus on the hood.
I don't
Right?
blame you. It's like the modern Call of Duty emblem, where like back in the day I was looking up guides of how to make custom emblems in Call of Duty. Now I'm downloading Forza Horizon skins for my various cars. Yeah, so I hear you.
Mhm. Thank you for the question, Tom. Thrack writes in over on the Discord, just like you can if you join the Discord, link down below. What are your thoughts about the supposed lack of Starfield marketing people have been complaining about? Do you think it's a legit issue or is it just fanboy nonsense?
I will say I haven't seen as much Starfield marketing in my timelines, and by marketing I mean like advertisements, TV ads, any kind of stuff like that. I have not seen a lot of it. And I don't know if it's an issue yet, but we are now at the beginning of August. And I think if we don't start seeing more of it throughout the month, either A, they are super confident in this game, B, they're waiting for the holiday season to kind of like, blow their advertising money and pump it up that way, or C, there might be a problem. I feel like right now I'm seeing less Starfield marketing than I saw Redfall marketing in my
Ooh.
in my world, and that's telling. That's a statement. What do you think?
Um, so I know they've been releasing little teasers here, and I know we got, I think last week we got three different videos about like the factions or the city. I think it was the cities in Starfield. So they are releasing certain things. I don't know if I've seen any actual ads like Starfield comes out on this day or like pre-order now, because like when you scroll on like Reddit or Twitter, you occasionally see, like I've seen Baldur's Gate stuff out the wazoo, man.
Yeah.
Like that is crazy. To be fair though, it is a Game Pass game. So if most people are going to play it in Game Pass, how much marketing is really necessary?
I mean, I do think that they've still got to market it to people that are not in Game Pass, and also that they're trying to get to sign up for Game Pass. And like you said, I've seen Baldur's Gate 3 ads. I've seen Remnant 2 ads a lot where they're talking about the million,
Yep, I've
the
seen
million
Remnant too.
sales.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that kind of thing. Now I do have YouTube Premium, so I can't really speak to like if any big Starfield splash screens are coming up at the beginning of videos and things like that. So that could be happening. But on Twitch, I don't think I've seen any Starfield stuff. But again, we're at the beginning of August. The game comes out at the beginning of September, so they could say, "Hey, here's $3 million. Figure it out over the course of the month, and then this can be a really strong lead up versus advertising it since the beginning of May, and then people are like, "Oh, the game's not out yet." So I think it's timing is really special, but definitely something to like keep an eye on. If we don't start hearing more about it in a big grand scale way soon, their strategies either changed or we could be looking at a weird launch for this one.
I'm confident we'll hear more about it. I think our Gamescom, especially around then, we'll get some trailers and some drops, because I know it's probably a big presentation they're going to have. But that is a few weeks away and closer to launch, so maybe they're saving it all for those last 2 weeks and just have a big blitz. But I'm not sure. I'm not worried, but I understand. I understand what people are saying.
Yeah, I would rather have that. I think you bring up a great point with Gamescom because they put out that blog talking about the Gamescom plans, and they basically said that Starfield isn't going to be playable, to my not recollection, but they're
Hmm.
going to have big gameplay segments that are shown during Gamescom. And so, I would rather, if I had a specific budget, spend it all over the, like you said, the course of 2 weeks and dominate the conversation online rather than just be, like I wake up in the morning and it's trending with 5,000 tweets or whatever throughout the course of the summer. Like I'd rather have it really everything everybody's talking about for the last 2 weeks of August and the first week of September. That's the choice that I would rather make for sure.
Hmm. I wanted to bring up Roasty Co in our Discord. This isn't in the document, but he did tag us right before the show went live. Looks like you can you can repair your own Xbox controllers now.
Yes.
Which is, he wanted to highlight that last minute submission. Y'all should talk about it. It's pretty exciting, he says. So it looks like Xbox now sells custom parts, so you can repair your own Elite controllers. I think that's a great move.
Yeah, they're doing it with that's a Microsoft wide thing where they're making it a much more common situation for you to be able to work on your own stuff. And I don't know if that's after a lawsuit where they're kind of like being targeted for locking people behind a paywall of like having to buy something new, but I think it comes back to the right to repair stuff. So, shout out to the Elite Series 3 or excuse me, Elite Series 2 owners out there that are wanting new sticks, or that, whose dog got a hold of the thumbstick or the analog stick. You can now pop that bad boy out and fix it. So yeah, give people the power to fix whatever they own. I'm a huge fan of that. Even like everything from popping out a battery and replacing it in a laptop to putting new buttons in your Series X controller. I love that.
I'm too scared to do any of that stuff. All right, you give me a screwdriver and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what to do, because I saw some people for the ROG Ally. They're like, here's how to install a bigger SSD. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I am not
Really?
taking this apart. Yeah, apparently
Hmm.
I know. I think Cog did it over on Iron Lord, shout out, but I'm like, nah, not for me. I'm gonna keep the SSD in here and leave it alone. So it's cool if people want to tinker with their stuff, but that's not me. I'd honestly just go buy a new controller.
Yeah, I've done I've never actually no. I have opened up a controller, but I opened up it was a DualShock 2 a couple of weeks ago, and then I have done surgery on a PS4 to replace a hard drive, and I
Wow.
also took the clock out of the original Xbox that I bought a
Well,
couple of
that's gonna
weeks ago.
explode on you if you
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, because I had to pop the little acid time bomb out of it before it killed my Xbox. So I've done that kind of stuff, but I also build PCs, so I guess that's kind of like I'm used to getting in there and like poking around and stuff.
Yeah.
So
When I open my PC up to clean it, I'm like the gentlest. I'm like, here you go. It's okay. Because
that's
I'm like,
hilarious.
if I pop, if anything comes disattached, I'll be like, I don't know what to do anymore. I got to call someone and get them to hook my PC back up.
Oh yeah, I'm digging around in that thing like a Star Wars engineer, where I'm just throwing bolts and like SSDs back. I'm like, we don't need that. Forget about it. That's not useful anyway.
I'm like, I don't know what this is. Anyway, it's Kyle writes in, should Xbox ditch the Series S and make the X the base option and come out with a Pro model?
I think that in a retrospective way right now, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of Phil Spencer, the S is becoming a bigger problem for Xbox right now. And I say that as somebody who has one sitting behind me plugged into that TV and I love playing it. But from a performance point of view, it is a pain. It's like if you're cooking dinner and you have somebody that has a specific allergy or something, and you've got to effectively make two different dinners slightly modified. That's what devs have to worry about right now. And for some dinners, that's easy, like switching out your cheese for your mac and cheese. I'm really going all out with this analogy. But
Mhm.
some games are easier to co-develop these two consoles. Some games are more difficult, like what we saw with Baldur's Gate 3 right now. And so I think that to answer the first question, if they could have looked into the future, the X might have been like the go-to option, but also the S has paid off really well. And it is, I would say, I don't have data to back this up, but it's the most popular Xbox model out there right now at
It
this point in
is.
the generation. Yeah. So I think that it comes with some wins and some losses. But to the question of like a pro model, I mean, looking at what Phil Spencer's saying, they're just now tapping the potential of what the Series X can do. Like developers are just now getting in there and really leveraging everything that it has to offer. So until we get to the point where we feel very constrained by what the console has to bring, then I don't think we need a pro. But at the same time, I think I tweeted it out or said it on another show, but get me to the point where I don't have to choose performance or quality. That's what I would want from a pro model. And I don't know if technologically we're there yet at a price that makes sense for a mass consumer device like an Xbox.
I assume this question was asked because of the PS5 Pro rumor for next year that's
Hmm.
rumored to come out. So can they can't ditch the Series S.
No.
There's more Series S's in people's hands than Series X's. We know that from the sales. So they're going to need to support the Series S for the entirety of this life cycle at least. And as Logan points out in the chat, they're doubling down. Look at the Series S 1 terabyte. So they're in no way being like, we're gonna ditch it. All right. If anything, they're leaning more into it. Series X Pro model or whatever you want to call it. I personally, I think we've talked about this before. I don't see the need for one. I'm completely okay with choosing performance or quality, and I know a lot of people aren't like that. I get it. I'm fine with waiting until the next generation to have like that kind of sorted out, whether that does ever get sorted out or not, because as we continue to push new engines like Unreal 5 and continue to push the graphical capabilities, like are we just going to eventually get the PS6 where we're choosing performance mode, but it's 4K 60 when the max is now like 8K 120? Or you know what I'm saying? Like we're always going to be pushing and pushing the boundaries. So for me, I'm never one that's like, I need this to run at the best resolution, best frame rates possible. Like I'm okay with like lower resolution and good frame rates. So I also don't think Xbox has earned a pro model. I don't think they have done enough. We know they've only sold 21 million plus Xboxes compared to PlayStations. They just announced their 40 plus. So I just don't see the install base. Like if they come out with a new console, who's gonna buy it? They can't sell the ones they do have.
Yeah. I think that on top of that, you make a really good point about the consumer desire, like who is wanting a pro model, a performance situation, things like that. And I think when it comes to the Xbox Series S, the only example that I can think of to date of a game literally being held off of the platform because of the Xbox Series S that has been publicly announced like this is Baldur's Gate 3. Like that is common knowledge at this point that that is more than likely what is being held or what is holding this game back. The majority of people that are out there right now are not listening to the gaming podcast. They're not talking about performance. They're not watching Digital Foundry's comparisons between old gen, new gen, S and X. They just want to play the games.
Hmm.
And they don't care if it's running at 720p upscaled at 30 frames per second. As long as they can play it, like if they can play Starfield, like, to Captain Logan's point, there's the 1 terabyte black Xbox Series S coming out. If it can play Starfield and hold their games, sounds good. And for 350, oh yeah, it's $150 cheaper than the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. I'm in. Sure, that sounds great. And especially at the holiday time, the S gets down to the point where it's almost an impromptu purchase for people where, you'll be shopping online and you're like, oh, used for 175.
Hmm.
Sure, like go for it. So I think that we all need to keep in mind too, and I'm talking to myself with this of like people don't necessarily care about what their games play like. They just want to play the games.
Hmm. Yeah, and listen, I just paid 700 for this ROG Ally. All right, so this isn't hitting 4K. This isn't hitting. Well, I can do 120 actually, but this isn't hitting the crazy heights. But it's a handheld. Like I understood that when I got it, that like I know what I'm going to use this for. It has its use case scenario, and I feel like the Series S is probably the same, where most people are like, I know what this console can do, and that's completely fine because like looking at the price point, looking at what I want it for, that's what they're going in and buying it for. So I don't think we need a Pro. I don't want a PS5 Pro either. I kind of hope that doesn't come to existence, but I can see PlayStation doing it because they want to be the Apple of video games. Tom in the chat says the Series S development is like cooking for a vegan. Tom, that hurts. That hurts me deep.
Dang. Look
Yeah.
at that. Just getting called out like that.
I don't know. I complained heavy about Pokemon Scarlet, he says. I didn't. Pokemon Scarlet, best Pokemon game on the Switch. I don't care if it runs at 16 frames per second at certain points. All right.
But even then, do Pokemon fans that aren't in the chat and that aren't listening to podcast care about how that game
Nah,
ran?
because it sold 10 million in 3 days.
Right.
I think they're
Yeah. Like,
fine.
yeah. Which is unfortunate. Like, we should want better for that kind of franchise. But the reality is, like, well, it might be better on the next one, but hey, that's still selling like hotcakes now. It's like Waffle House, where you're like, I'm going to eat it. You don't have to make it better. I'm going to be there at 2 a.m. Don't even question me.
No,
No,
because
'cause
they're 13-year-olds. Logan.
dang.
Hey, I got that day one.
Whew.
All right, let's keep rolling here. Terabo question. He has 3 questions for us. He says, question 1: I've been harping since it was announced that Baldur's Gate 3 is not coming to Xbox as an L. That should never have happened. This puts into context Xbox's approach this generation. They've had some good parts and missteps. Why are they coming off as inconsistent and inexperienced, especially seeing as they've been in the industry for 20 plus years?
I think that this is probably because of a couple of different things. And again, I'm talking completely as a fan who's on looking at this whole situation. But I think that the company is bigger than it's ever been, Microsoft as a whole, in terms of like all of the different projects they're working on. And the gaming section specifically has more studios than they've ever had. And I don't think it comes down to one person like, overlooking everything that the Xbox Game Studios teams are doing or the Bethesda management, things like that. But I think it's harder and harder to wrangle a company the bigger it gets. And when it comes down to the hardware and software development teams and optimization teams and things like that, maybe it didn't have the overhead that it needed to have to make sure the projects were running smoothly. Partnership teams, maybe that were working with Larian Studios, they didn't do their due diligence, kind of like what happened with Redfall, where they just didn't have eyes on what the game actually looked like as it got closer and closer to release. And so I think a lot of the missteps that Xbox has had this generation come down to the difficulty of managing teams of the caliber that they have. Um, I hope that gets fixed, especially as a Halo fan, like seeing how 343 has kind of botched some of the beginning of Halo Infinite's life. they're getting it back on track, but at the cost of things like split screen co-op, at the cost of true campaign expansions. The games themselves do suffer over time, and they end up doing well, but not as well as they could be. So I think that it is probably due to the size of how big Xbox's operation is now.
I think the size is certainly playing a role where they are continue to buy more studios, and then that kind of takes their eye off the ball, which is why I think I don't know if you said it last week, but it's kind of the reason they're going for publishers, where they're seeing Bethesda and Activision, where they know they can manage themselves. We need to get our first party internal studios back on track, and let's see and kind of leave them to manage things. Has that worked out so far? Questionable,
Yeah.
questionable for some releases, especially a Redfall, and we'll see how Activision Blizzard goes when they come in. But it, I think a lot of it is coming off the Xbox One generation, where the mindset towards Xbox has been negative for a long time because they have failed for quite a long time, right? Management hasn't done what it should. The games haven't hit the way they should, and we're just now seeing them kind of put that right. I think Game Pass went a long way to help people get a better positive view of Xbox. But now we're seeing like, okay, the games, we're starting to get better games. Like Psychonauts 2 was highly rated. Halo Infinite, despite all its issues, did review very well at launch. And Logan, your question in the chat: would Halo Infinite be successful if it wasn't a game as a service? I think it would be more successful if it just came out and was a here's a traditional Halo game, like maybe we'll give you some DLC down the road. I think it would have been better received. But the fact that it was a game as a service, and Sam, you can feel free to disagree with me because you play way more Halo than I do. But I think the fact that it was a game as a service and didn't really get that content update out of the gate hurt it a lot.
I think that it depends on what you perceive as a game as a service, because that's every game that comes out today. Like the content keeps flowing. And so I think that if Halo Infinite had potentially, I'm not even going to say that, because like the expectation has changed. I think that what gamers want to play has shifted through the years. And now, if it is a free to play first person shooter or free to play shooter in general, now the expectation, unfortunately, for better or for worse, is new maps every month, new battle
Hmm.
pass every 3 months, new guns coming into the game, new equipment coming into the game on a regular cadence.
New
And
modes.
yeah, and I think that if it had been the traditional kind of multiplayer setup, or the traditional kind of Halo setup with map packs, even whatever that kind of monetization model would have looked like, people would have said, "Why is this so old? Why aren't they putting out more content?" I think the same complaints would have been there, and I think that maybe they just weren't equipped to be on that level of like a Warzone style release cadence for the updates.
So what you're saying is, when we get Activision Blizzard, we take all the Call of Duty support studios, put them on Halo support studios.
I think that
Problem solved.
I think that you solve the problem of Call of Duty wanting, or PlayStation wanting Call of Duty, by eliminating Call of Duty and moving all of those people
It's
over
a
to Halo.
Halo. Halo is now
every
yearly releases.
every 6 months, new Halo
Ooh,
game every six
ooh.
months.
I think we're gonna have to can some of these other games, put them on the Halo ban. All right, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a whole thing. Oh, man.
we'll go full Megacorp and no more Crash Bandicoot or Spyro. You are now a Halo support
Now we
studios.
draw the line. Now we draw the line. Changing plans again. Crash Team Rumble. We put all the teams behind that,
Oh
getting that
yeah.
content. Yeah. Question two: would you guys like to see a Starfield limited edition console? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I would love to see any Xbox Series X limited edition console other than the weird looking Forza Motorsport one that's celebrating however many years of whatever
Oh,
that brand was. Porsche,
yeah.
I think.
Porsche. I think it was
Yeah.
Porsche.
So we've got
Ugly.
we've got the ugly Italian restaurant Porsche model, and then we've got the Halo Infinite model, and I think those are the only two, the only two that we've got.
Yes. Series S, they give away custom Series S's on Twitter all the time. I've never won one, but some of them look good. Some of them are ugly as all hell, but I'm like, I'm still gonna enter because
Yeah.
just in case. Series X, yes. I think PlayStation, one of the advantages they have, and we're seeing this with the custom consoles, is they sell the plates separately. So you, like, if you have a console, you can just switch the plates. I would love to just have something like that for Xbox where I could just change the outside.
Yeah. It would be very nice. Also, as a side note, on the Xbox podcast, I've got to throw some shade. PlayStation is selling two pieces of plastic that you clip on to your other piece of plastic for $65. One of
This
them
is
is just black. One of like the back end of the PlayStation 5 Spider-Man edition is just black and it has a Spider-Man logo stenciled onto it like a sticker I got from one of the Walmart twisty machines at the exit. That is wild to me that it's $65. That's crazy.
You don't understand though. It's Venom, right? So like the symbiote is black and like it's going on your
I've seen
PlayStation
the
kind of thing, you
comments.
know?
I've
You
seen the
know?
comments. Yeah, but see, functionally, it's still black ink on the piece of plastic. So I get that it's Venom ink, but geez, $65.
But like how much did that cost to make though, you know? Like
7 cents, maybe. I don't know. Like it's filament in a 3D printer. I don't know how much that stuff is, but not six. That's insane. I thought like maybe 40 would be fair, but I don't know. Make that money, PlayStation.
the the market dictates, all right? And the market's
Yeah,
dictated
they're sold
60
out. So clearly, I'm
$65.
underselling. Yeah, I'm underselling. I guess.
Question 3: which Xbox exclusive game are you looking forward to the most from their first party studios? I think we've answered this a few times in recent weeks. Hellblade 2 is undoubtedly my
Yeah, Hellblade
most
2 is a good
anticipated.
pick. I would say I can't remember what my answer was before, but like Avowed is probably what I'm really
Yeah.
excited for. Really excited about Avowed. That's probably my pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question, then we'll get out of here. Blaze Knight writes in, says, "What's the first game you're streaming to the Discord after today's announcement?" Uh,
Ooh, yeah, that was exciting. That's cool. For those that don't know, you can now stream your games to Discord from an Xbox, or that's a thing that's coming soon, which is something my friend group ironically uses pretty often.
hmm.
But I would probably use it to like stream little indie games and stuff that I'm playing. I think that's really neat. I don't know if I would be doing it in the Save the Game Media Discord or any of the ones that I'm in as like a podcaster, but it's cool for like smaller friend groups to be able to see like, oh, playing Dredge or checking out Toem. We'll move on from that. Checking out a short hike now, like stuff like that where you can kind of roll through a lot of the Game Pass games. Like it'd be cool to do a
Hmm.
Game Pass exploration night and just like
That would be
throw.
cool.
Yeah, that's neat. Just to throw up whatever, maybe do some cloud game streaming. I don't know what we could do on that, but yeah, I think just exploring what Game Pass has to offer.
I will say this now. Anyone that wants to stream their games can come to the Save the Game Media Discord. You are welcome to stream your game in the community hangouts, and we can have that Game Pass exploration night, or you can just show us your, I don't know, your weird waifu games that you get on Steam for $2.99. I don't really care. All right, like whatever you're looking to do. I think it's a cool feature. I don't know how much use I'm gonna get out of it personally. It's not really something for me. I don't tend to stream my games. I'm really bad at playing a game and talking at the same time. I've tried live streaming a few times. It's hard when it's just you solo. So it would need to be a community experience.
Yeah, I agree. Live streaming is not easy. I think it's a cool feature as well for people that are like, oh, dude, can't get past this one level in a game. And you're like on a Discord call and you're like, oh, I
Mhm.
got you. Let me boot it up. You throw it in quick resume. You go back to the point that you're at and you're like, all right, you got to do this, this, and this, and you can hit that goal. I think that kind of use is really neat.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't have an answer. Maybe can I stream off the ROG Ally? That'd be cool. Just get
Maybe.
Discord on there. Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for us this week, everyone. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. We appreciate everyone watching us live here on YouTube. Again, if you're not watching live every Thursday, come hang out. We like to chat with you. And if you're listening to this on audio, make sure you get those reviews in for the Starfield giveaway. I will mention it a few more times before we draw the winner, but you're going to want to be entered. Sam, any closing remarks before we get out of here? You want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch. I don't know why I said Twitch. It's not like I stream anymore, but Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I was thinking about streaming all the social media platforms and YouTube. You can find me at JamPackSam, pumping out content throughout the week. Put out a short on Atlas Fallen today. You'll appreciate that
Ooh.
one. The new combat trailer is looking pretty good. So yeah, always talking about the new games that are on the way. Excited to see what you have to say about that one in the next couple of weeks as well.
I pre-ordered it, so I think it comes out next Thursday. So I probably won't have played it when we do the show, but after that, then I will have played Atlas Fallen, and I'm
Very
looking
nice.
forward to that. You can find me over on X because they have officially made you update. I didn't update my phone. Like I was holding off. I was like, I wanted to say Twitter forever. And then they forced auto update it. So you can find me over on X at the Muffin Man. That's a 1-7I and 0-7A. Follow us at Save Game Media over there as well. Stay up to date with the latest. Until next week, we'll see you. Goodbye.